We're tracking the chances for more thunderstorms and possibly some severe weather. We'll have details.
Well, the deaths have shocked the nation. People from all over gathered to remember Shanann Watts and her 2 young daughters. Plus, social media painted a happy picture of the Watts family, but it's becoming more and more clear that that was hardly the case. And thousands of runners are about to run up Pikes Peak, but some bad weather made things a little difficult for organizers.
You're watching KRDO News Channel 13, where the news comes first. Your news starts right now.
Good morning, Colorado, 8 a.m. on your Saturday, August 18th. I'm Danny Freed. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, yesterday's severe weather did cause some major issues near the Pikes Peak International Raceway. Several roads were flooded out, including the median on I-25, backing up traffic for miles. Several people had to be rescued from their cars. The superintendent of the Hanover School District told us he and a group of teachers and students were stranded at the elementary and senior high schools. Now, a stretch of Boca Raton Heights was completely washed out, creating headaches for drivers. One lane has since reopened and crews will be out later today continuing those repairs. But in the meantime, taking a live look outside now, things are pretty quiet, but that may not be the case for too long. Here in La Veta, though, beautiful. This from our Viera Wireless Neighborhood Weather Network camera. If you joined us during our last hour, we actually saw this shot and there was plenty of fog in the area, but that since has burned off, it looks like. If you look closely at the camera, it looks like it's maybe jiggling around a little bit, maybe a slight breeze there, but sunshine up above. Time now 8:01. Let's get a check of the weather with Storm Tracker 13's Marty Finichinque. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning, Danny. Good morning, everyone. And we had a pretty significant line of storms rolling across the plains last night, finally ended in Kansas. And here comes the next one. Already into the mountains in western parts of Colorado right now. It's an upper level system that's going to ensure that we have a pretty good coverage of storms across the area in the next few hours. So we still have some low clouds, a little patchy fog out there now. It's in the process of breaking up. We do expect scattered afternoon storms, and a few of these could be strong. Still looks pretty gray at the moment in Pueblo, and the low clouds and patchy fog is just an indication of a lot of low-level moisture around. Yesterday was about as humid as it gets around here, with dew point temperatures in the mid-60s in the Pueblo area. Again, that's pretty unusual for Colorado. Right now, as seen from up on top of Cheyenne Mountain, courtesy of our camera there at ppar.com, you can see the clouds here starting to break up as they're up against the mountains, and that process will continue. So we'll get a little bit of sun before the storms arrive. But probably around lunchtime, the first showers will start to develop over some of our local mountain areas. It won't be long after that a line of storms comes off the mountains and starts tracking off to the east. We won't get real warm today. 70s and lower 80s should probably do it for most areas. And again, we have that threat for some strong storms, and we'll tell you where that threat is best coming up in our neighborhood weather forecast here in just a bit. Danny, back to you.
Okay, Marty, thank you. New information continues to come in on that heartbreaking case out of Frederick. We've learned investigators believe Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts were strangled in their own home. Shanann's body was found in a shallow grave on the grounds of Anadarko Petroleum, where husband Chris used to work. The bodies of the 2 girls were found not far away in oil drums. We're told their bodies had likely been there for 4 days. And last night, hundreds packed into the small neighborhood in Frederick to hold a vigil in remembrance of the Watts girls. With candles in hand, people added to the growing memorial outside the Watts family home, many coming out to show support for the family following this tragedy. In the midst of sadness and pain, many tears were shed for the pregnant mom and young girls, even by those who never knew them.
Indescribable. Can't believe anybody would do such a thing to their family.
I didn't know the family, but just want to try to heal a little bit.
Many extended their support, condolences, and prayers to the family of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. In the time of their death, Shanann Watts was extremely active on social media, especially on Facebook. Throughout the last several years, the young mother shared hundreds, even thousands of photos and videos detailing her life and marriage to Chris. Now, according to her post, Shanann was diagnosed with lupus and met Chris online during a particularly rough period. In one video uploaded this year, she credits her husband with saving her life.
Your vows, like through sickness and everything, he's been there. He was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me.
While things seemed picture perfect online, the couple had previously faced financial difficulties and filed for bankruptcy in 2015 to escape crushing credit card debt and focus on paying off their mortgage. Now to new information on a story we broke last night at 10 o'clock. 2 suspects are now in custody in connection to a robbery near Jetwing and Morley Drive. Both suspects were arrested after leading police on a short foot chase. At least 1 shot was fired, but right now it's unknown by whom. Nobody was hurt, and police did find a gun at the scene. Well, a teen in Colorado Springs is in custody after injuring 2 police officers. Police were called to the 6300 block of Council Point for a domestic violence call just after 8 o'clock last night. Police say while they were trying to arrest Cynthia Crowley, she attacked officers. 2 officers were treated at the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Crowley was arrested for 2 counts of second-degree assault on a peace officer and domestic violence charges. Well, happening now, weather can make or break a big event like the annual Pikes Peak Ascent and Marathon this weekend, and organizers had to deal with hail during setup yesterday. Marble-sized hail hit Manitou Springs, where the races will start today and Sunday. But with the race already underway, it should help runners avoid storms. The 2,600 runners registered. It's one of the town's biggest events of the year.
We're going to have the runners come in, they're going to stay, restaurants will be full. They bring their fans and friends and family with them, and they go into the shops as well. So it's a great weekend for Manitou.
Race organizers have added new events for spectators to enjoy, and the event has earned world-class status, meaning more runners from around the world are expected to participate in future years. Well, a teen in Arizona survives being struck by lightning.
I couldn't believe it. My son should have been dead on the spot.
How he says he's feeling after his brush with death.
And it looks like we're going to have a pretty good chance for some heavier rain to fall over parts of eastern Colorado. Most of that probably coming today. We'll have the neighborhood weather forecast coming up next.
Welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. Taking a live look outside right now. This Colorado Springs here for you. Obviously, we're kind of flying under some clouds this morning. That flag there is staying pretty still, which is nice. But I actually just stepped out back of our studio just a few minutes ago, and it's a little muggy out there. Maybe a little bit humid, and more humid than we're used to here in Colorado. So something to keep in mind. We were talking about earlier, if you want to get some stuff done, maybe do it a little earlier this morning. Time now is 8:09. Let's go ahead and get to Marty Vinichenko with more on that. Marty?
Good morning, Danny. Good morning, everyone. And as the drier air with the next wave crashes into the low-level moisture that's out here, yeah, we'll get some thunderstorms, and it won't be too long into the day before that happens. But we have similar views at the sky conditions as seen from Pueblo, as we've noticed around Colorado Springs. Just a lot of low clouds hanging around at the moment. They're in the process of trying to break up, and that'll continue for the next couple of hours. Most of the major reporting stations in the southern part of the state anyway are showing 60s. Lyman right now is at 59. High country in the 40s. Big valleys right now in the 50s. Skycast shows this first batch of thunderstorms, which is already rolling into the Continental Divide this morning, continuing to march east through the late morning hours. Notice by lunchtime, Skycast already has the first showers and thunderstorms beginning to break out across the mountains here in the Pikes Peak region. Obviously, with some folks up on top of Pikes Peak, we're hopeful they can get up there and get out of the way here before these storms come in. So this will come across the interstate shortly after lunchtime as a broken line of thunderstorms, and say through about 2 o'clock or so. Notice the brighter colors on the map, which means some of the storms could be strong enough to produce some heavy rain and potentially some severe weather, which I'll talk about in just a bit. This should evolve into a larger line of storms as it continues east this afternoon and evening over the far eastern plains, which is where we're likely going to have our best threat for some severe weather. So in the yellow shaded areas in particular, this is where we're most likely to have storms capable of producing some hail to maybe over 1 inch in diameter and some thunderstorm wind gusts to 60 miles an hour. It's possible in the green shaded areas from the interstate eastward, but it certainly looks like it's going to be more widespread over the southern part of the state, especially east of the interstate. And we'll also get some heavy rain out here at times, maybe some localized flash flooding. High temperatures, not terribly high for this time of year, 70s and 80s at lower elevations with 60s and 70s for the mountains and mountain valleys. This line of storms will continue off to the east through the evening hours before finally exiting into Kansas. And then as the main upper level system, the center of it, comes across the interstate, notice at 9 o'clock, Skycast tries to break out some spotty showers and thunderstorms here along the interstate. Now these wouldn't be terribly strong or widespread, but you could have a little bit of lightning and thunder, hear a little rain as you're going to bed tonight, and then that should wind down about midnight or so. When you wake up tomorrow morning, could have some patchy low clouds or a little bit of fog in parts of eastern Colorado, but with some drier air coming in, I think that'll be less widespread. High country could fall into the 30s. There might even be a few snowflakes up there tonight. Look for 40s for the big valleys, but again, for most of us, I think 50s. So I mentioned that the clearing process is slowly underway. Monument was cloudy, a little foggy last hour. Starting to see some sun pop through there now. Over the next several days, after this little stormy start to the weekend, we'll track some cool and at times breezy conditions and a drier work week as it looks now. So it's kind of the, I think this is kind of the hurrah here of the active weather, at least for a couple of days.
Okay, sounds good. And of course, good information if you're heading up north for a Broncos game later on
There
tonight.
could be a few showers around, even after that first main wave goes through earlier in the day. There could definitely be a few showers with that little upper level circulation. So I would bring an umbrella, maybe a poncho, just in case,
right.
and be prepared.
Yeah, pull out that orange poncho. All right, Marty, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, a new warning from the Pentagon why China may be ramping up its nuclear and military capabilities. Plus, she pushed her friend off a bridge and could now be heading to jail. What she's saying about her actions after the break. Turning to some headlines from across the U.S., prosecutors in Washington have charged an 18-year-old who pushed her friend from a bridge, badly injuring her. And Taylor Smith is charged with reckless endangerment after pushing her friend Jordan Hogerson off a 50-foot bridge. Hogerson suffered 6 broken ribs and a punctured lung when she hit the water below. Just hours before the charges, Smith sat down for an exclusive interview with GMA. She claims she and Jordan discussed jumping before she pushed her.
She wanted to jump and she was scared, and she had asked me to give her a push, and I didn't think about the consequences. I thought she would be fine.
Jordan's doctors say she's lucky to be alive.
She was counting down, and I was like, no, like, don't count down. Like, I won't go if you count down. I'm not ready.
Now, Taylor does face a maximum sentence of about a year in jail and a $5,000 fine, and says she accepts whatever her punishment is. As for Jordan, she says she doesn't feel the need to talk to Taylor and actually wants to see her sit in jail and think about what she's done. Well, now to a new warning from the Pentagon about escalating U.S. tensions with China and the potential threat of war. A new report reveals China is aiming to boost its nuclear weapon capabilities through its long-range bombers, quote, likely training for strikes against U.S. and allied targets. So what's the goal? Here's what one of the CIA's leading experts on China thinks.
The Chinese fundamentally seek to replace the United States as the leading power in the world.
The Chinese have some military advantages. Vice President Mike Pence revealing a U.S. military shortfall.
Hypersonic missiles designed to fly up to 5 miles per second at such low altitudes that they could potentially evade detection by our missile defense radars. In fact, China claimed to have made its first successful test of a hypersonic vehicle.
And in the South China Sea, in a highly disputed area, the Chinese are making it clear that the U.S. is not welcome. Well, the jury in the Paul Manafort trial has yet to reach a verdict as the judge has revealed he's received threats and fears for his and the jury's safety. After a second day of deliberations, the jury pored over hundreds of documents requesting a larger room to hold all the evidence.
Do you view the continued deliberations as a good sign for the defense?
It's a great sign for the defense.
Prosecutors accuse Manafort of hiding millions of dollars from the IRS and defrauding banks. They say he stashed more than $60 million in 31 offshore bank accounts. As for the possibility of a presidential pardon, the president says, I don't talk about that. The judge in this case says he's now under the protection of U.S. Marshals and because of the threats will not make jurors' names public once the trial ends. Now to more trouble for the Miss America organization. Cara Munn's reign as Miss America does come to an end next month, but she's not going quietly, accusing the newly appointed chairwoman, Gretchen Carlson, and the CEO of bullying. Carlson took over the historic pageant back in January, overseeing sweeping changes. Munn says when Carlson arrived, her reign took a turn for the worst. Pageant organizers haven't commented, pointing to an interview with People magazine where Carlson denied the allegations, saying, we have supported Cara for her entire year and we will continue to support her. It's disappointing that she chose to air her grievance publicly and not privately. Caressa Jackson was Miss America in 2010. She says she isn't surprised by Cara's allegations.
But I have seen some of Gretchen's intimidation and bullying behaviors even happen among us as former Miss Americas in our email chain. So if she would do it to us, then I know absolutely she would do it to the girl who's holding the crown.
Jackson is now part of a group that has signed a petition calling for the resignations of Carlson, the CEO, and the entire board of trustees. Well, a teen in Arizona who survived being struck by lightning says he feels like Superman. Josiah Weidman is thankful after his electrifying close call.
Try to live my life a bit more because I know that it can end at any time now.
The jolt of lightning launched Josiah in the air, leaving him with a skull fracture and concussion. He says the last thing he remembers was feeling a bit of heat. His friend Javier was also hit. He blacked out, but bounced up without severe injury. Josiah doesn't think he'd be alive if it weren't for Corey Sasinski, a bystander who performed CPR until paramedics arrived. Josiah says he's now waiting on his superpowers to kick in. Marty?
Well, if you're heading up to that Bronco game this evening, I do think the main line of thunderstorms will have gone through. However, there's a chance for some weaker showers and thunderstorms to exist for a little while. So I'll be prepared for that. Otherwise, enjoy the game. We'll have the 7-day forecast coming up next.
Coming up in sports, it's Broncos preseason day number 2 up at Mile High today. They will face the Chicago Bears, and will we finally see 5'8" on the field during the preseason? We thought we'd see him last week. That didn't happen. We'll discuss coming up.
KRDO Mobile on the Go is powered by The Medicine Shop.
Well, the city above the clouds has been that this morning. The low clouds that have been in place in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, nowhere to be found in Woodland Park right now. And Pikes Peak looking good right now. A lot of people coming up Pikes Peak at the moment, running actually, which seems, well, hard for me to imagine trying to do. So, well, good luck to them. Hopefully they get down pretty quickly because we expect the showers and thunderstorms to develop around lunchtime or so today, and pretty good coverage of them. As the wave comes through, though, it's going to bring some drier air in, so tomorrow looks a little bit cooler and certainly less active as far as thunderstorms go. Now, we're not going to rule out a quick shower or a little thunder in the afternoon, but I think those things tomorrow will be few and far between and certainly not as strong as what we'll have out there today. Monday looks dry with highs in the upper 60s. We'll warm up some then during the latter half of the work week. Thunderstorms should return to the area and probably become more numerous by about midweek. Canyon City will get 80s today and tomorrow, but just lower 80s and probably only 70s on Monday. That doesn't happen too often this time of year. So as far as the air temperature is concerned, kind of refreshing. We'll also notice that the sort of soupiness that we've had around here the last couple of days will go away as that drier air comes in. So today, good chance for storms. Tomorrow, yeah, maybe you couldn't rule it out, but wouldn't count on it either. Monday and Tuesday look mostly dry. I do think some spotty storms will return about the middle of next week, and we'll be getting hotter by then as well. I mentioned Woodland Park is above the clouds. Pueblo, nope, still underneath them. You can see it there from the Vero Wireless Neighborhood Weather Network camera, but we're getting some brightening there, and it won't be too long before those clouds break up in more areas. We get lower 80s today, good coverage of thunderstorms today, good chance for some heavier rain too if you get some cells overhead. Tomorrow, again, we're not ruling it out, but wouldn't plan the day around it. Looks dry on Monday and Tuesday, starts to warm up Tuesday, and then by the end of the work week, we're back into the 90s. And doesn't look terribly rainy this week in Pueblo. Colorado Springs, we get a good chance for some storms today as well, and as we've mentioned, there could be some severe weather in pockets, maybe some large hail or some damaging wind gusts, as well as some heavy rain. Tomorrow looks a little quieter as far as that's concerned, and drier as well. I don't think you'll feel tomorrow to be a humid day, as has been the case the last couple of days. Later on in the week, we start getting warmer again. Mid-80s return. Storms return as well, probably that Wednesday through Friday time frame. But look at Monday just for a second. Focus on that. Partly cloudy, 72. Yeah, that doesn't happen too often this time of year. It might be a little breezy, maybe a sweatshirt for some people. I don't know. It's gonna be a little bit cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start talking about that soon too. But I like this time of year, especially in Colorado, because it's that in-between time of, you know, right now the weather is pretty nice. It's all right, but you know, like I said, gonna have to pull out those sweaters pretty soon here, so should be okay.
And it's getting cool at night. I've had some people commenting on Facebook, and the nights seem kind of cool. They're getting longer too, if you haven't been paying attention.
Yes, they are.
It doesn't take long before we all of a sudden flip that switch and start heading into fall.
Yeah, 9 o'clock last night. It was dark. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
Here we go. All right, Marty. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, Broncos preseason game number 2 coming your way later tonight, 7:05. To many people's surprise, though, Von Miller did not play last week. So will he play this week? Here's KRDO News Channel 13's Nick Rothschild.
Okay, here's everything you need to know about the Broncos' plan for their first preseason game on Saturday. Von Miller will play. Von Miller will play. Von Miller will play.
Von Miller will play.
Von Miller will play.
Are we done here? Yep. Goodness, I couldn't have been more wrong. Good morning, I'm Nick Rothschild. This is your morning sports update. Now, Von Miller didn't play in preseason week 1. The expectation is that he will play in week 2, but I'm going to go ahead and hedge those bets early on so I don't end up back in my own cold open there. But up until game time last week, he was expecting to run out onto the field with the Broncos defense. Miller warmed up under the impression that he'd get to play and then inexplicably was told to shut it down. Vaughn says he spent a lot of that pregame time getting the rookies ready to play.
I was pretty excited, to play. I was ready to go out there with my brothers to play. I was excited to go out there with Chubb. Me and Chubb, we talked about socks, before the game, So I was, getting Chubb right and the other rookies right, and I'm ready to go out there in the field. And, but when they said I wasn't going to play. So I wouldn't say I was upset, but I wanted to play.
The Rockies, hoping to keep the winning train a-rolling in Atlanta last night, was all about Ian Desmond. Desi, with the bases loaded in the third, ends up being a bases-clearing triple. Then later, bases loaded again, and Desmond pokes one down the line. 5 RBI on the night for the off-maligned first baseman. And Kyle Freeland, he was pretty darn good, too. 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts for the young man from Denver. Gonna have to start calling him Kyle with a CY. Rockies win 11-5. If you didn't catch that, Kyle with a CY because of, Cy Young. He's about as good as any pitcher in the NL right now, and he continues to be excellent on the road and at home at Coors Field. And if you're a national pundit and you want to give guys like Nolan Arenado flack for being good hitters because they get to hit in altitude, well, you better give that same kind of respect to Kyle Freeland for being very good pitching here at Coors Field. I'm Nick Rothschild. Have a great day.
All right, well, Pueblo City Councilman gets a look at the typical day of a police officer, why he says the experience was so necessary. And she was an inspiration to us all after climbing the incline and summiting Pikes Peak using only her hands. Now, a less inspiring update. Good morning, Colorado, 8:30 on your Saturday, August 18th. I'm Danny Freed. Thank you so much for joining this. Wanting to start you out with a really beautiful live look right now from Cedar Point. This from our Viera Wireless Neighborhood Weather Network camera. Check out the clouds moving across the ground there. You obviously can't see the clouds themselves, just the shadows, but it always looks really neat to be able to see that. And then, of course, too, on the horizon, seeing some of those lower lying clouds breaking up as the sunshine is now pretty much peeking through all over Cedar Point here. So really nice start to the morning, really pretty shot here. Picturesque, kind of a little bit of a screensaver for you. Time now 8:31. Let's get a check on the weather with Storm Tracker 13's Marty Vinacinque. Good morning, Marty.
Good morning, Danny. And some people having to clean up a bit of a mess from the storms that went through yesterday, producing some hail. Those are long since gone. Here comes the next round of showers and thunderstorms into the mountains already with an upper level system that is going to guarantee we'll have a pretty good number of storms across the area a little bit later on today. So we're in the process of breaking up the early low clouds and patchy fog. We do expect scattered afternoon storms, and some of these could be strong. If you're just joining us, we've been showing a lot of shots like this morning, as seen from both Pueblo and Colorado Springs, where we have some low clouds and maybe some pockets of fog. Looking out the window here in Colorado Springs now from the television station, the sun is shining nicely, but there are other parts of town where it's still pretty cloudy. That's pretty obvious as seen there from Abba Eye Care up near Powers and Woodman. We would expect that at lunchtime we'll probably have the first showers already developing over near the mountains. They won't be terribly strong just yet, but we'll be in the 70s. And then as we move through the afternoon, stronger showers and thunderstorms should move pretty quickly towards the east. And we'll have the latest Skycast maps and show you where the best chances for severe weather exist coming up here in just a few minutes. Danny, back to you.
Okay, Marty, thank you. Well, 3 men are in jail for running an illegal marijuana grow. Emil Benitez, Yordis Rodriguez, and Alfredo Arcaya Gonzalez are being held on $50,000 bond. El Paso County deputies found 300 plants, 72 pounds of processed pot, and more than $11,000 in cash at a home off Highway 94 in eastern El Paso County. In the meantime, we now know the man who went stiff as a board and fell flat on his face when he was tasered by a CSPD officer this week. Police have identified him as Lilton Maestas. The original Snapchat video was posted by Jacob Duke near North Academy in San Miguel Street when he spotted 2 officers chasing Maestas. Maestas was wanted for numerous outstanding warrants, including one for assault. He'll be booked into the jail once he is out of the hospital. Well, it's a story you first saw here on KRDO, a double amputee climbing the Manitou Incline and then summiting Pikes Peak using only her two hands. Now, a less inspiring update as Mandy Horvath was arrested for driving under the influence, her third this year, and assaulting a medic on Wednesday. According to the arrest papers, she was driving drunk when she crashed into a curb early on Tuesday morning. When an officer and medic arrived and began talking to her, they say she began hitting her own head on the asphalt. When they tried to stop her, they say she slapped the paramedic. Before this all happened, she spoke to us about her prior struggles.
One person's struggle is, their struggle, but at the same time, we all have those.
We tried to get a hold of her for comment, but we have not heard back yet. Now to some good news about wounded CSPD officer Jem Duzell. His condition has been updated from critical to serious. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but we're told he made some movements yesterday. He was shot more than 2 weeks ago. This latest update is the first in more than a week. Now to Pueblo, where a member of the city council recently rode along with officers on patrol. The purpose was to get a better appreciation for what police do on a day-to-day basis. Councilman Mark Aleph says the experience was eye-opening.
I felt it was necessary as an elected official to go out with the police department, see how everything's working, make sure that I know whenever I'm asked what's going on within the police department. So I thought that was a good way to get my foot in the door and to know what our police department does on any given shift.
Aleph says during the 8-hour shift, he and the officer responded to 14 calls, including 2 armed robberies. Well, we're looking ahead to the start of school for Pueblo D60. The district opens its doors Monday for more than 1,700 students, but starting this year, students will be attending school 4 days a week, not 5. The change was originally passed by the school board last March. Board members hope the change will save the district money and attract more teachers, all without losing any educational benefits. Teachers tell us they're cautious, but say the new schedule could help fix some of the district's issues.
We had a 33% chronic absenteeism rate in the district last year. So hopefully with only going to a 4-day week, it'll be easier for students to be here every day.
Now, Pueblo City Public Schools joins a number of districts in Colorado to switch to a 4-day week. District 70 in Pueblo already is on a 4-day school week, as well as Hanover and Edison. District 27J in Denver also just switched to a 4-day week. There are actually 89 districts in Colorado that are completely on 4-day schedules and 12 districts that have some, but not all schools on a 4-day week. Well, several schools across El Paso and Teller counties have had improvements in the Colorado Measures of Academic Success test. In Colorado Springs, District 11 experienced its highest scores ever last year. Initially, Colorado standardized testing was, of course, all done with paper and pencil, but the new test sees students answering everything on computers and has much more complicated questions as opposed to the traditional multiple choice questions. Marty?
We're expecting a threat for some large hail, damaging wind gusts, and maybe some flooding if the right storms track over areas that have either dealt with the burning of the fires or maybe some of the heavier rain recently. Couldn't rule out an isolated tornado either. We'll talk more about it coming up next. Well, we often like to show you Pikes Peak from the shot out near overhead door at Powers and Galley, and no, can't see it because we still have that blanket of low clouds, which are starting to break up here right near the mountains and will eventually in other areas as well. We're brightening the sky a little bit as seen from the Pueblo Chieftain studio, but still a good bit of low cloud cover around this morning. Skycast is doing a nice job of picking up on this cluster of showers and thunderstorms already moving into the mountains to our west, and that's part of an upper level system which will drag these storms eastward pretty quickly. Notice Skycast has some broken showers and thunderstorms already developing over our local mountain areas by about lunchtime. We probably won't have much to worry about on the plains at that time of the day, but hang tight because we do think that that line is going to head your way. By 2 o'clock, I think a broken line of thunderstorms will be coming across the interstate. The brighter colors indicating some of these storms could be pretty strong with some heavy rain, frequent lightning, and gusty wind. The strongest cells could produce a little severe weather, which we'll talk more about just a minute. Notice, by the way, through 4 o'clock that as these storms travel east, they'll tend to expand in coverage here as they move across the plains, and that's likely where the heaviest rain will occur today. And it's also likely where we're going to see the best chance for some severe weather. So in the yellow shaded areas over the southeastern corner of the state, this is where we could have some hail, maybe over an inch in diameter, and some wind gusts to around 60 miles an hour, possibly an isolated tornado, though that doesn't appear to be a great threat today. And we couldn't rule out briefly picking up some hail or some gusty wind with stronger cells along the front range, but we do think it'll be a little bit less likely, or at the very least, those storms will be a little bit less numerous here along I-25. High temperatures today in the 70s and lower 80s in much of eastern Colorado, with 60s and 70s for the mountains and mountain valleys, so it's not going to get real warm today. Notice a real well put together line of thunderstorms tracking out across the eastern plains early this evening before moving off into Kansas. We also noticed some weaker showers hanging back here towards the front range through about 9 o'clock with this little upper level system, so we couldn't rule out some of that, although any of that evening activity here near the front range is going to be much weaker than what's going to go through earlier this afternoon. When you wake up tomorrow morning, 50s to around 60 at lower elevations, 30s and 40s over the mountains and mountain valleys, and with so much drier air working into the area, I don't think that the low clouds and fog will be nearly as widespread as they have been this morning, but there could be a few pockets and spots. There's the view from Phil on Kia right now. Starting to get some filtered sunshine coming through the clouds there as that deck of low clouds begins to break up. We get a stormy start to the weekend, obviously, and we'll be cool and breezy at times over the next few days. But this little wave that's bringing the showers across our mountains already this morning is also going to work some drier air into the area, and so that probably means we'll have a drier start to the work week, and we'll have the extended forecast soon.
Okay, and should be okay sleeping weather then tonight too, which
crisp.
Yeah, and you know what, sleeping with the windows open, especially when it's raining a little bit too, is always really nice. So.
Yeah, well, the other thing happening is the air will be drying out some, so it won't be quite as sticky as maybe it's been the last couple of nights.
Good, so can't complain all around. All right, Marty, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, at just 4 years old, she faced being deported back to her home country of Peru. Coming up, we have a positive update on the case of Angela Becerra. Plus, CSPD will soon implement the use of drones, what they'll be used for after the break. Welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. Taking a quick live look at your traffic this morning. I-25 and Woodman for you. Obviously still under some of those clouds in the area. And in terms of your traffic itself, looking like you're doing okay. Obviously some cars on the road today, but that's okay. Nothing that's obstructing you at all from getting to your final destination. Time now is 8:45. Well, we're getting an exclusive first look inside CSPD's evolving UAS or drone program. They're far from the first, but they're investigating a large amount of both money and manpower in theirs, and they believe it will pay off. Here's KRDO News Channel 13's Bart Betzel with a story you'll only see here on KRDO.
The last time CSPD had an eye in the sky was before tough economic times forced the city to sell its 2 helicopters in 2010. Lieutenant Dan Lofgren was part of that tactical team, and now he's putting together a new one. It is intended to provide a similar aerial advantage, but in a much smaller package this time.
We see it not only for enhancing investigations, but certainly a role for improving officer safety also. An aerial perspective is just priceless in those situations.
One of the biggest challenges in creating a successful police drone program is actually having enough drones and enough officers trained to fly them in order to deploy a drone within a reasonable amount of time before a situation totally clears up. To combat that, CSPD has a total of 8 drones with at least 1 spread out in each of the 4 patrol divisions, and they hope to train up to 40 officers to fly them.
13 have completed all training and are deployable right now out of the 40.
Different drones will be used based on the needs. Some for documenting accident scenes, others for finding a fugitive on the run. One will even include an infrared camera for operations at night when officers are most at risk.
If we can use this tool and this piece of equipment to make the first contact on locating a suspect versus sending officers in there and encountering a suspect that is waiting for them, that could be armed and oftentimes are armed that we're searching for, that's tremendous.
Lieutenant Lofgren also wants the public to know that they will be sensitive to citizens' privacy and that the drones aren't meant to patrol the area like the old days, but simply to assist with specific scenarios.
And that was Bart Betzel reporting. The department has invested about $30,000 in equipment so far, and that doesn't include the 10 to 15 hours each officer will have to spend studying to become an FAA certified drone pilot, as well as learning to fly each of these drones after that. Well, Fountain Police were the first in our area to use these drones. In October of last year, the department unveiled a pair of drones. Incorporating new technology into its arsenal isn't a new thing for Fountain PD. The agency was also the first in the region to use body cameras several years ago. And just this week, Pueblo emergency crews used a drone to check Fountain Creek to map out possible evacuation routes in case of flooding. Officers say they will also use it during a flood warning to locate and warn people who may be living along the creek. Well, after more than a year of reaching out to immigration services, the orphaned Peruvian girl adopted by a couple in Aurora will not be deported. Angela Becerra was initially denied citizenship to the U.S. after her family adopted her when she was only 12 days old from Peru. Angela's parents reached out to Republican Congressman Mike Kaufman, who met with Citizenship and Immigration Services in the Denver area. They agreed to reopen the case, and the petition was approved, reversing their decision about Angela. Now she will automatically get a green card, and her family will be able to file for her to receive a certificate of citizenship. After receiving the good news, Angela's father says the family can now relax.
So now I'm feeling really grateful. I know the big door is open for my family. I'm feeling no more stress. The last 5 days I just sleep.
Angela was in the U.S. under a tourist visa that was set to expire in 2 weeks and faced deportation after that. Now to a story featuring another Colorado politician. Senator Michael Bennet is supporting emerging technologies in Colorado Springs. Yesterday, he met with business owners attending Exponential Impact, an event where startups are pitching their companies to funders. Bennet supports these companies as he believes they'll strengthen our economic and national security.
We're people that are working on the most cutting-edge technologies related to artificial intelligence, related to blockchain, are now coming to believe that Colorado Springs is a place that they want to come and move their companies to develop those companies, partly because there's so much good talent here already.
There's a lot of innovation happening in the space and in the air arena, but in the startups you can iterate faster and to prove out technologies, and then you can mature them and move them into the military at a faster rate through a startup process than a typical DoD process.
Bennet also says Colorado Springs has an opportunity to galvanize public and private industry to maintain our nation's competitive edge. Well, coming up after the break, a dramatic rescue all caught on camera.
Can you talk to me? Talk to me, sweetie.
A deputy pulling a 3-year-old girl out of a hot car as she was clinging to life.
Follow us on Twitter at KRDO-NC13.
KRDO Mobile on the Go is powered by Comfort Keepers.
Welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. Taking a live look right now from our Viero Wireless Neighborhood Weather Network camera at Alamosa for you this morning. Beautiful shot here as we're seeing those blue skies after some of that haze and some of that fog may have cleared up a little bit this morning that you could have been seeing in areas around southern Colorado. In the meantime, though, like I said, beautifully blue up above for you in Alamosa. Time now 8:53. Well, we have newly released video of a 3-year-old girl found locked in a superheated car, slipping in and out of consciousness. A deputy in Florida pulling her out after she was stuck for 12 hours, racing her to the ER in his own cruiser.
Sadly, I didn't think that she was alive when I got to her. I felt for a pulse. I didn't feel a pulse.
Deputy Bill Dunn encouraging her then signs of life. The girl arriving at the hospital in critical condition. Deputy Dunn feeling overwhelming relief, collapsing onto his car. Investigators say the girl's mother is facing charges of neglect. The little girl survived and days later was reunited with Deputy Dunn. Well, if you're looking to adopt a furry friend into your loving home, now is the perfect time. Here's Gretchen Presley to tell you why.
Good morning. I'm Gretchen Presley from the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region, and this beauty is named Madeline. Madeline is a 1-year-old female pit bull mix. She came into HSPPR as a stray, and no owner ever came to claim her. She's been doing very well here at HSPPR and seems like quite a sweet girl. She is friendly and playful, but she calms down nicely to cuddle too. She is good on a leash, and she seems good with other big dogs too. Madeline is looking for a loving home where she can get the discipline she needs to be the best dog she can be. Come adopt Madeline into your home today. Her adoption fee is $200, which includes a voucher for a veterinarian exam, vaccinations, 30 days of pet health insurance, a 1-year dog license, and a microchip. And Madeline will be spayed by our AHA accredited veterinary clinic. We're having a pet teak sale here at HSPPR because they're not old, they're vintage. Starting today, the first 19 dogs and 11 cats 7 years or older will be free to adopt. This is all thanks to the generosity of Mike and Cindy of Status Symbol Auto Body and Bill and Debbie of Dent Tech. Visit our website at hsppr.org, like us on Facebook, or come by in person to 610 Abbott Lane starting at 11 a.m. to meet Madeline and all her furry friends in need of loving new homes.
Welcome back to Good Morning Colorado. It's time to see how you wake up Colorado. Larry Marr, my goodness, we love Larry. He sent us this picture he captured of a lightning strike during yesterday's storm. I'm sure you saw plenty of those yesterday in the area if you saw any of the storms. But wow, to be able to catch one on camera like that, so beautiful. Larry, thank you so much for always sending these amazing shots in. We, of course, always want to see how you wake up Colorado. Send us your pictures to wakeupcolorado@krdo.com. You can also tweet them to us or post them to our Facebook page at KRDO News Channel 13. Be sure to use that hashtag WakeUpColorado. And Marty, we might have the opportunity to catch some more of those lightning strikes on camera today.
Yeah, probably a pretty good opportunity. We do expect some storms to roll into the area around about lunchtime or so. Right now it's a little breezy in Woodland Park, but otherwise pretty quiet, and we're definitely up above the clouds this morning. We'll end up with about a 40% coverage on the storms. I don't think severe weather is a great threat in Teller County, but we couldn't rule out some hail or some strong wind gusts with the stronger cells. Tomorrow we couldn't rule out a shower, but much drier air will be working in, so anything that develops tomorrow would be much weaker. Notice, by the way, pretty cool here, 60s for a couple of days, and overnight lows likely going to be in the mid to upper 40s, so it's going to be pretty cool at night. We'll get back into the 70s as we move through the middle of next week, and then we'll see some chances for thunderstorms return to the area. Canyon City, good chance for some rain today, about a 30% coverage on the storms. Tomorrow, not quite so great with regard to rain chances. Monday, look at the highs, only in the upper 70s, and it does look like Monday and Tuesday will stay dry for you. Starting around about Wednesday, we'll have another chance for some storms, and we'll be back in the 80s. In Pueblo, we'll go with lower 80s today and tomorrow, only 70s on Monday. Again, today brings you your best chance for some rain, and not just today, but probably for the rest of the work week. On Wednesday, we could have a shower, a little thunder around. Thursday and Friday look pretty hot with highs in the 90s, and that's what's left of the low clouds that are banked up against the terrain as seen from up on top of Cheyenne Mountain this morning. They'll continue breaking up before the showers and thunderstorms return to the area. And we'll end up only about 72 on Monday in Colorado Springs, back into the 80s by the end of the week. And then it gets back to more normal stuff, 80s during the day, almost a daily shot for some thunderstorms. And it's that time of year.
Yes, it is. All right, Marty, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow morning. In the meantime, go Broncos.
Thank you for watching News Channel 13, voted best in the West by the Associated Press.